discussion?
I believe that we will have a workshop coming up where this will be an item of discussion at that workshop where we can all wrap our arms around it. Once we get the kind of information we need and the information is clear about where things are and the dust settles. And I think we do need to look at this very carefully. I don't think we need to rush to that level of execution at this point, because definitely there's no need. And I don't feel we need to stampede and actually cry wolf at this point. We know we've got problems. We also have good successes. And, you know, while we spend a lot of time talking about the problem schools, we also need to measure that respectively with the schools that are doing well. We will always have, in an organization this size, we will always have issues with respect to performance of our schools. The question remains is how we deal with them. That's the important thing. And deal with our staff, our teachers, our students, and our parents, and making sure that we do the right thing by our schools.
Further discussion?
Just like to add that were we not to have a forum, what we're doing is once again limiting access of the public to what we're doing. That's number one. Number two, we are limiting our access to ideas from folks in the community who might have some suggestions for us. Ideas that are specific to their area and where they live and how it affects their local school. So again, I really don't understand the resistance other than a continued attempt to furnish the image of the school district, and in my opinion, at the expense of student achievement, because this could be a valuable effort that could raise student achievement in these program improvement schools. But the arguments that I'm hearing against it are basically that we don't want to tarnish the image of the district by having a forum where people might point fingers at us. And frankly, I don't really care if people point fingers at us. What I care about is if we can raise student achievement and get these schools off the program improvement list.
Let me just clarify what I said. I want to make sure it's not misinterpreted. There, in no way, shape, or form have I stated that we should not involve the public. I said initially we need to look at this in-house and make some assessments about which way we need to go. So I want to make sure that that's on the record. If the public needs to be involved at a later date, we can make that decision collectively as a board.
Further discussion? Been moved and seconded. We'll call for the vote. Student board member? No. Mrs. Stanton?
No.
Dr. Barton?
Aye.
Dr. Williams?
No.
Mr. Ellis?
Aye.
The chair votes no. Thank you. Now time for public testimony on items not listed on the agenda. Limit 5 minutes per person.
I have no request.
We have no requests. Report of board members. Mr. Ellis?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Meyer. I have a few information requests that I'd like to discuss or remind staff about. First of all, I'd like to thank staff for the legal fees report. I was given a report on last year's fees for legal expenses. But I must say I was shocked to see that we spent over $4 million, I believe it was $4.3 million on legal expenses last year. And I want to reiterate to staff that I have asked for an accounting of the last 5 years of legal expenses, so to determine whether or not there's been a spike in that amount this year or the last couple of years. Also, I found it notable that one of the law firms out of the seems like dozens that were listed received over $1 million individually. I also want to reiterate my request for the exact expenditures that were spent, that the bond money was spent on for each individual school site. Mr. Steinhauser, you mentioned to me before the meeting that a previous report that you've given to me does have that. I remember it a little differently, but I will double check to make sure that I have it correct. But if I don't, I will get back to you. And what I would like to see is a report on what specific work was done at each individual site, and not just a dollar amount that says windows or not allow CDC teachers to work for 4 hours any longer. The CDC teachers, as I understand it, were given a directive they could no longer work 4 hours, that they would have to work 8. And I'd like an explanation of why we are doing that. I'd also like to know specifically how much money was spent on air conditioning with the bond money. As you are all well aware, we had a very hot summer and frankly another heat wave recently. And I have continued to hear from teachers about classrooms that were unbearably hot during class. And I can tell you from experience, and Mr. Myers, I'm sure you can back this up, Dr. Barton, Dr. Williams, when you're in a classroom that's over 80 degrees or 85 degrees, you simply can't learn. And I believe Dr. Barton shared with me, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Barton, that you were at a classroom just a week or 2 ago where the temperature gauge in the classroom was 95 degrees inside the classroom. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So again, this is a very important issue, and I'd like to know how much money was spent on air conditioning with the bond money. And related to that, how many classrooms and bungalows currently have air conditioning right now? And I think that will be it for me. Thank you very much, Mr. Meyer.
And Mr. Ellis, I hope that you'll have that in writing for our staff so that they don't miss any of those requests.
I've submitted these requests.
Thank you
Mrs.
very much.
Steinhauser in writing already. Thank you.
Mrs. Stanton,
Actually,
Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr.